Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Studio 78 podcast. I am your host, Nishay from NishaySnow.com. That's NACHESNOW.com. And if you're looking for show notes for this page, because we mentioned a lot of really good links, just use like the shortcut, which is nishaysnow.com/35. But also over there, of course, I have all of my resource pages, health and wellness, business, design, photography, and web. And if you like to read, I have a page called The Bookshelf that has books that people recommend all over the web for all the topics that I just mentioned. So you have like all the hottest books in one place that you could just click on and it'll link you to Amazon. And then, of course, you can sign up to be notified for the Life Cleanse Journal. If you're listening to this episode in the future, it should be for sale. So you can head on over there to purchase the journal. All right. So today I have Hadiya Williams. She is a maker and designer. And I'm really excited to share her journey with you because really we just kind of get into what she is just now starting to do. So basically, see, I probably interviewed her maybe a month ago, like right after she was laid off from her job. And she decided to try this whole entrepreneurial thing again. So she is just kind of like walking us through like some of the jobs she's had in the past. And, as a designer, talks to us about how she got into making jewelry, which I find fascinating because it's funny, like when you take like different classes at your local art like school, and I'm not talking like a big art school, but like for example, we have the Torpedo Factory here in the DC area where you could go and just take like weekend classes or classes after work in ceramics or collages or fabric arts. I mean, you name it, right? But it's funny like how sometimes people take those classes, it could be in photography, whatever, and they fall in love with it, and all of a sudden it turns into a business. And that's kind of what happened to me when I initially went to the tech shop, and I fell in love with laser cutting, which started me creating laser cut goods, which I sell at creativeroute.com. So I've taken a lot of my stuff offline because I've just been crazy busy. But the last year or two, year and a half, I think I've been selling those. I did like pretty good. And that all started from like a hobby. And for me, really, I just wanted to sell it so it could pay for like my membership at the tech shop. And if it turned into something that was great. But I just tell that story to say it's funny how like you end up trying something, but that something like ends up sometimes turning into a business. And if you head on over to her Instagram account while you're listening to us talk, which is Hadiya Williams, Hadiya Williams, you'll see like her gorgeous pieces. Her graphic design pieces are gorgeous too, but I mean, her jewelry pieces, which she just started doing, are like amazing. Like, she just has kind of a knack for creating these beautiful pieces of art. But anyway, so in this episode, we just kind of talk about like what she's doing now in order to combine her love for graphic design and her love for making. And that's like something that's like near and dear to my heart, being a graphic designer by a trade, but someone since I was like a little girl who just loves making. Like, even if you head on over to my YouTube channel, like just go to YouTube and type in my name, Nishay Snow. But you'll see like I have videos on making stuff because I'm like, I just love like doing that, right? And so it's like in this episode too, we just discuss like how do you combine your love for multiple things, and make sure like I guess that message or that branding is kind of consistent so people don't get confused. But it's like you want to do both because you love both. And I think I can so relate to her because I have love for business, I have love for graphic design, and I have love for making. So even with nishaysnow.com, I am trying to figure out how to mesh all those things together, and hope that people just kind of get that I am kind of this jack of all trades and I just don't want to be put in this one little box, right? But anyway, let me just let you guys listen to the episode, and I would love to know what you guys think. So please comment, on social media or on this post, and yeah, just let me know how it's inspired you, or if you have, any thoughts on this subject. Okay, here we go. All right, we have Hadiya here. Welcome, Hadiya.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I am glad I discovered you. Thank goodness for Instagram. It's amazing.
I love it. I love it so much.
And design, I'm like a huge design person. My background is in design. So whenever I find like designers that's doing amazing work, I love to talk to them and then try to get them to like share even tips with other people and like the importance of design. But I saw your account on Instagram and I was like, oh my God, her designs are so beautiful. I have to get her on the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm glad you found me, and I'm glad you appreciate my work. So that's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we dig into your design work and, not only just graphic design, but also like the handmade items you make, can you tell the listeners just a little bit about your background?
Okay. So I am a DC native, and I am currently in DC, Washington DC. And my background, I have two bachelor's degrees. So I have one degree in computer science from Bowie State University. Go HBCUs. And then I worked for a couple of years as a software engineer, and it wasn't really my thing. And I knew I wanted to be a some kind of computer graphics. When I was in at Bowie State, I took some classes. They were called computer graphics, and I really enjoyed it. So I ended up pursuing that when the opportunity came about. Like I said, 2 years into software engineering, and I got the opportunity to go back to school to get my second bachelor's. So I got a BFA in graphic design from Columbia College, Chicago.
Mm.
And yeah, and I finished there in 2005. And so I've been working professionally as a designer since 2005. So, and it was a great decision. I'm so glad that I went forward with that.
So after you graduated in 2005, did you decide to get a traditional job? Did you freelance?
So I freelanced while I was in school, like it was a 2 year program. So while in school, I was able to get opportunity to do some freelance work. And so I started in school, and then through a creative temp agency, I got a job back in DC because I went to school in Chicago. So in DC, I got a job at Discovery Communications, which is the Discovery Network.
Mm.
So I received a temp job there, and I worked there for a year. So that was kind of advertising and design,
Mm.
and advertising wasn't really my that wasn't something I was as interested in. It's a different type of design work. It requires a different level of thinking, and
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I ended up going to work in because DC is a very like contract government city. So a lot of people get work through the government. They do a lot of government contracting. So I ended up doing corporate design for most of my career, working in event design.
I see like a lot of your pieces are like event pieces, like you do publications,
Mhm.
flyers, information graphics.
Wedding, wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, very cool. And so you're like working for these different places and then, getting to do like a breadth of different types of work. At what point did you start like making stuff?
The stuff I've been making, like the clay based work, I
Mm-hmm.
started in February of 2017.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. I literally I was going through a just a phase, and I just wanted to create something. So I took a class in ceramics, and it wasn't it was a great class. It was a short like workshop, and I wanted more. I wanted to be able to do stuff at home, so I figured out a way to do that using polymer clay. And I ended up getting into the polymer clay, and that was in February of 2000 this year. And I posted on Instagram, and people they really loved it, and it got, it was just exciting sharing the work and making. It was very therapeutic, and so that really kind of got me through the winter, because winters can be a little isolating sometimes, especially as a designer when you spend a lot of time working inside. So taking that time to kind of create was really really exciting and inspiring, and it's inspired others.
Very cool. So I kind of like jumped the gun since that's like this year. So just to just to like back up, just to make sure we get your full story. For
Right.
you, like, after you discovered like kind of like the PR stuff wasn't for you, but you like the event kind of driven design pieces,
Mhm.
how did you see like your design like evolve through the years? And then how did you get into like, I guess, other types of work, or did you kind of stay kind of in the event arena for several years?
So I've done quite a few different things because people like my work, and they know me. I'm very accessible in a sense. So I'm trying to figure out how to describe it. So I get a lot of different requests. A lot of people reach out to me. So I've done some branding. I've done some. I'm not a web-based designer, even 2017, and I still prefer print. But I've done some digital stuff, of course, in my career. And the event design is where like my professional work is, and the nonprofit has always been a part of what I've done. Because my first freelance job was at the nonprofit actually that I work for now, the one that I'll be leaving very soon. So yeah, so they were the first ones to kind of give me the opportunity to do some work for them on a very small scale, just because they didn't have anything. So I was able to create their brochure, and then from there I did their annual report every year. So that was kind of an ongoing thing. So I've worked in the nonprofit arena most of my career just as freelance work, and that's been actually the release from doing the corporate and event design for businesses. I've been able to do the freelance work where I can be a little more creative. With things. And so I've appreciated that along the way, because it's been able to give me a chance to do some things that was beneficial to, marginalized communities, and also to be more creative.
Now, for you, so it's interesting. Like, I interviewed someone like a couple days ago, and she's been a freelancer for years, like having her own personal business. And then this week or next week, she's starting like a 9 to 5 job. So it's interesting now talking to someone who's leaving
It's like,
their 9 to 5.
that's going to be my story in like 5 years.
Right?
We go in cycles, I swear. Like I'm so interested in finding, especially as Black designers or designers of color, like people who are maintain the freelance work for a long period of time. I'm very curious to kind of find out like I guess the numbers, or like what the ratio is, because I know people who will work for a while as freelancers, and then they'll go back into the 9 to 5, and then they'll go back out. So yeah, that's interesting that we're kind of on opposite ends right now.
Yeah, because for you, is your plan to full time, like now work for yourself, or were you going to like maybe find another 9 to 5 that has more, let's say, flexible hours or teleworking and so forth, and then kind of straddle the two worlds?
My plan now is to work for myself. And it's funny, as we speak, I'm in a co-working space, kind of testing out this co-working space and getting a feel for how I want things to look for me moving forward. But yeah, I would like to freelance full time and also make. So kind of figure out how to combine the two and make them work together. I know the graphic design is something that I do well, and I'm talented at with the design, and it's something that's very consistent. But creating the pieces with clay is where I get a lot of joy at this moment.
Hmm.
And so I would like to be able to devote, a decent amount of time to that. So I'm in a place now where I'm definitely trying to figure out how to merge these two worlds.
Yeah, and for you, because I know other people that are listening out there might be where you were maybe a month or two ago, where they're like, wow, I have all these ideas to produce a product, a book, or whatever that might be. But, the fear of like leaving a 9 to 5 is still there. Like, what kind of, I guess, gave you like the courage to be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this.
This isn't my first time uh,
Mm.
doing it, so I think that's where the fear kind of subsides a little because I've been here before, and it's funny because I read the book. I think the 4 Hour Work Week like years
Oh,
ago,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I think in the book he says what's kind of think of what's the worst that can happen. So
Mm-hmm.
and when you think about what's the worst, and barring anything tragic, but just as far as like if your life got to this point, like kind of think in that way, and then you can kind of work from there. And if you get to this point, it's like, okay, if it gets this bad, like that is not as bad as it seems. And so I feel like I've been there in a sense, so I already know for me what's the worst that could happen. And so doing
Mm-hmm.
it again, like it's not as scary this second time. And so I feel more optimistic now. I know now that the plans I need to have in place, and versus before where I felt like I just kind of stepped out there and I didn't really have a plan and it didn't really work out, so I ended up back in the workforce. But now knowing that what like I said, what's the worst that can happen, I can kind of make different decisions, and the fear is less, and
Mm-hmm.
I do know at the end of the day, I know that there is a plan B that's available.
And so for you, because and I love like talking to people who are like right in the midst of doing something, because I sometimes when you talk to someone who's made the leap like 4 or 5 years ago, they
Hmm.
forget what they did in order to like prepare for that next step. So I'm just curious, like, I guess, what are some of the things that you're doing now in order to like prepare yourself to like open like a small business?
So being in DC, like one of the things that I'll need to do is have something called a CBE, like a certification as a DC employee or DC contractor. So that's one
Mm.
thing that I need to do. Aligning myself with people that I know are in a space that I want to be in, just like energetically being connected to the right to people that I know that I would like to work with, and that I know are doing things that are in the space that I want to be in. Like I said, I'm in this co-working space, so I'm putting myself in the place that I want to be in. Like I want to be able to be freer and kind of work and create my own hours, and have space that's not so stationary. So being in this space, like I can feel it. So it sounds kind of esoteric, but I'm a believer of of energy and of manifesting, and all of that. So I'm
Mhm.
so being in the space, and also I took on a freelance job that helped me financially. So
Mm.
when I leave, I have this freelance job that I'm working on that's going to kind of set me up to kind of get me through a certain point. So that those are things that I've done so far to.
Mhm.
And so in this time, I'm going to now think about the next phase, like how I want this design business to look, or this creative business, because it's going to be more than just graphic design. It's going to be a space where I'm just creating, and that's what I want to
Mhm.
do differently this time versus before, where I was focused on graphic design. Now I want to focus on being an artist and kind of making different things.
Those are some like great things. And, I hear from a lot of like entrepreneurs, it's like the right paperwork, networking,
Right.
figuring out what your space is, be it a co-working space or you're going to do it from home. And then like, how you're doing freelance. Like I talked to somebody else that I'll have on for the second season. And she was saying like she had like she did just a retail job just to give her like a little extra cushion, but
Mm-hmm.
then she would still have her full-time business, but that retail job was like for insurance or whatever. So, it was just like that cushion. So it's like having that like little backup if you need it. So I think that's like an amazing like plan to get started.
Yeah.
But you say so the creative business, I want to like touch on that a little bit more because one of the things that caught my attention in the Instagram feed were like your ceramic pieces. And then when I clicked on your link, I was like, oh, she's a graphic designer too. Like,
I'm trying to figure that out. Like, and I even did like a crowdsourcing in Instagram. Like, what do I do? Like, how do I make these worlds fit? And
mm-hmm.
and people are saying like the thread is my aesthetic. Like, it's okay to do different things, because there are people who say, you need to kind of double down on one thing and focus on it, which I get, but I've also heard that you can be a master of, well, not a master of multiple things, but you can kind of have your hand in a few things, and that could work as well. So a creative business to me, my aesthetic would be the thread, and I would be able to make things, whether it's event design, which is why I would like to focus and keep it there, because I feel like that still is connected to like packaging and kind of
Mm-hmm.
the look of things, and how an experience, creating experiences for people. So whether it's experience through receiving a piece of jewelry, or something I make, or as an experience in coming to an event where all of the pieces that are there give you a feeling, because that has been experienced with like the weddings that I've done, or the parties. Like when I've worked with people, they are so it's just so, the event comes together so well, with my
Mm-hmm.
collaboration with whoever I'm working with, and that experience is so memorable for people. So that is what I would like to kind of base my business off of, is these experiences, no matter what
Yeah.
it involves. So I hope that makes sense. But
I mean, I could see it all tying together. I forgot what I was like reading lately, but it kind of touched on that a little bit. Just
mhm.
talking about it's like figuring out. I think it was like a Skillshare course that I took or something. I just be like signing up for random stuff.
But
It's like-
I know what you mean. Yes.
but it was like he had like these interlocking circles,
Mm,
and he was like an illustrator. And he was saying like you might like to do 3 4 different things that seem like they have nothing to do with each other, but that middle part where they intersect is where you figure out how to make all of them fit together. So like it makes perfect sense to me. Like you can do like a bridal shower, but like your pieces could be gifts that they purchase in order to give like to their guests, and you can also do the invitations that match the aesthetic of like the pieces, like there's a way somehow to like tie it all together. It's just figuring out like the best way to do it.
yes. Oh, yeah. I'm so glad you said all of that.
Yeah, I totally get
That's
it.
exactly what I envision for things, like the evolution of it to be something like that. So the experience is involving different things that I've made within it, which as
Hmm.
a possibility. So yeah, yes, absolutely.
Now, are you giving yourself like some time to just like figure it all out? Are you just gonna like just kind of just do it, or do you have like, okay, by November 1st, I'm gonna have everything set up and then start marketing, my new business?
That's a great question. I am taking the rest of the year off from design. So I feel like January is when I plan to kind of roll things out in a more cohesive way. Like I have October is kind of jam packed with the jewelry and the clay. I have a couple of events coming up that I'm doing. My my work is going to be in the gift shop, the museum store at the National Museum for Women in the Arts.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, so that's wonderful. And they reached out to me to be a part of this. They have an exhibit coming up, and I wish I could remember the name of the exhibit, but it's highlighting Black women in abstract art. Oh,
Mm.
like I think since 1960. So that's amazing. So my work will be in the store as part of this exhibit, and then they also have a market coming up. So this is still the museum. So that's something that I'll be doing in October. And so that's going to kind of, I'm going to do some stuff in person, and then I'll want to get the store back up because right now my store is on vacation because I'm trying to
Mm.
kind of make this transition. So I feel like I'll spend the rest of the year focused on the the clay and the making, and then January, I will pick back up with kind of bringing everything together and being able to take in design work. So hopefully by then I'll have all of my things in place for administratively, because that's the part that, as I'm creating and making, that's the hard part to kind of do because I'm trying to do it all at once. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and working full time, it's been difficult trying to get all that done. So with this having the days available now, that would give me time to kind of do everything that I need to do. So that's my
Mm-hmm.
hold me to it.
Yeah, no, I think it's great and it's interesting. I was like working with someone and she's about to start a podcast and she was like to announce her podcast, she's gonna have like rent out a space and have a party. But I'm like, I can totally see you doing that too because like I'm like, invite me so I can buy some stuff.
A launch party.
It feels like you need a launch party. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I've had someone suggest that to me, and I'm absolutely going to have a launch party, and you are going to be there. So
Yes. Because, I mean, folks, her pieces are really amazing. Like, if you go to Hadiya Williams on Instagram, and that's Hadiya Williams, it's like really, I just love the pieces. Like, where did you even get the idea of like to do that type of style where it's like simple? Kind of shapes, but not simple. It's like the way it comes together is like really beautiful. And even like the spoons you do, it has like that almost like medieval, kind of feeling, but with like a touch of modern. But
right.
how did you kind of come up with that aesthetic? Because when I could kind of see that style in your graphic design, but
Hmm.
it's still different though, right? Because this one
Right.
has more of like a kind of tribal feel to it.
Yes, which is an aesthetic I've always loved, and I feel like that'll always kind of be a classic style, even in the early 20th century. Like you'll see a lot of artists and designers use that West African aesthetic in their work
Yeah.
as part of their style, and it became very popular, in the Western culture, and all of these abstract artists. So I feel like that's always kind of been there, and that's always an aesthetic I've been drawn to. Very, yeah, very kind of modern and grid-like and
Yeah.
modular, and so, but there's this natural, intuitive, like, because a lot of times I'll just sit there and I'll just kind of just do whatever comes to me. Like I wish I were able to plan things out, so I know exactly what I'm going to create. But a lot of times it's very intuitive. And the style, because I'm taking a ceramics class, and my instructor is a purist. He likes a certain type of design. So when I come in there with not a lot of experience in ceramics, I'm trying to do things that aren't necessarily traditional. And he says, as a designer, he said a lot of stuff that he's seeing it as a trend. I guess people are designing pottery versus like they're adding a level of, I guess he didn't say graphic design, but I think that is what you're seeing is like the graphic design kind of merging into this world.
Instead of just like that traditional, like what you've always seen done, with ceramics. Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, like even with your patterns, because, when you talk about just doing a creative business, like I can see, you getting patterns like on spoon flower. I could see you doing like wallpaper. I mean, the patterns that you're creating for your ceramic pieces like lend themselves to so many things. So I feel like once you have like your line set, I mean, you can like expand it to like so many different things.
Yes, and I actually did spoon flower. I got some, like I did I don't know if you saw the chair. I did like I took a upholstery class with Nicole Crowder. She's amazing. She's
Mm.
a local upholsterer. So I took her course and I actually gotten fabric made. I designed fabric. I got it printed at Spoon Flower, and I used that to do my chair. And I love the way it came out. And I
It looks
definitely
good.
yeah. Are you looking at it?
Yeah, yeah, because you did the
Okay.
one with the blue and then the black and white stripes. Yeah, it looks really
Right.
good.
So I did the black and white. That was the one I did on Spoon Flower, and so I would like to yeah dabble in that, and also being able to print my own, which I've done before. I've done some block printing like years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like once I can kind of get into it, like really stepping out there, because there's also I think what is it called, so Society 6, where you can
Oh, right. Yep.
right like so I've looked into all of those avenues. So that's definitely part of the plan for Black Pepper Paper is to kind of expand it in that way as well.
No, I think that's genius because like even selling products myself,
Mhm.
what gets tricky, especially when it's handmade, is it's always got to be made by you, right? So
Right, right.
either you got to keep making them orders, you got to make a whole bunch in bulk so you don't have to keep making those orders.
Mhm.
But what I like about what you do is a part of it, you can make money while you sleep, like with wallpapers and fabrics and Society 6. Like you don't have to like make every single thing by hand. It's like only a portion of the business has to be about that, which is really nice.
Right. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. So I do appreciate that part about it. Yeah, being able to, like you said, make money in your sleep. That is the
Yeah.
goal. That is.
Now, I mean, yeah, because I can see you doing classes too, like online classes, like a whole bunch of cool stuff. Now, my question to you is, as a creative, like sometimes what we struggle with is like, I know I struggle with this all the time. Like, I have like all these ideas about all these different things, and then I'm just like, ooh, okay, what should I focus on now? So for you, like, as you take this year off and figure out what to do, like, what are some of the things that you're going to do, I guess, to try to like, just stay focused, come up with a plan so then in January you could just go.
So my plan is right now I am getting a moving my home studio into a space called Recreative Spaces in Mount Rainier, Maryland, which is a small area that's kind of an art district in Maryland, right over the DC
Mm,
line. And so in that space there are other creatives as well. And so the reason for me kind of moving my space out of my home is so that I will be around people who are actively working and creating, and I'm paying rent, so it forces me to take everything seriously versus, waking up in the morning and do I feel like making something today, do I feel like leaving the house, having to leave the house and
hmm
and then being around people and us kind of collaboratively thinking about different events and different ideas. And so the people that are going to be in that space, I already know how they think, and I know that is going to be a great experience. So that's one of the things I've kind of positioned myself to do, and that starts October 1. So I'll be moving in there next week actually, and and
Yay.
I know. So I'm excited about that because because that's going to be it's going to be good for, yeah, like you said, keeping me focused throughout the rest of the year, so that come 2018, I am still on track with what I'm
Mhm.
doing do. So yeah, environment is key for sure.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you too, and don't, feel obligated to answer this if you don't want to. But I always, ask people too, like, who's making the jump? Like, did you like save up like this huge like nest egg that you could like live off of for a year, or were you just like, I'm just gonna do it?
Mm, I wish no. But fortunately, the situation that I'm in, I'm able to, they, my position has been abolished. So that's part of, because they won't have another graphic designer come in. Like it's not something that is part of their 2018 plan. So because of that, I was able to get, I guess, in a sense, not laid off, but I'll get a severance. So
Oh yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
that helps. And I'm at an age now where stuff like that to me is a blessing instead of a curse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so I get it now. Like I understand how that works. So this is definitely some divine order. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
able to actually have a severance. I have a month. So that's gonna, I have the end of, like it's gonna help me get through. And then I have that freelance job. So I didn't have savings, but I was able to get opportunities to get money to get me through the rest of the year. So
Mm-hmm.
for people who out there don't have anything saved up, I don't know what people's situations are, but just kind of, I say, put it out there that this is kind of what I need, and things always fall into place. They always have for me. So I know that because I said this is what I wanted to do, and I moved toward that. Everything kind of lined up, so that is my kind of flowery plan, but it has worked out that way. So I definitely feel like that was, like I said, divine order.
Yeah, it's interesting. I listened to like the Pat Flynn podcast, which is a business podcast, and Entrepreneur on Fire. And what they always talk about, like what the Entrepreneur on Fire guy always calls it the baby effect, but he says it doesn't have to be like an actual you're having a baby.
Hmm.
But a major event in your life sometimes forces you to do something earlier than expected or something that maybe you wouldn't have done because you're comfortable. Because even like Pat Flynn, I think he was like laid off from his job, and then it was like, well, okay, what am I gonna do?
Right.
But both of those guys, and they've had guests on too that say the same thing, that sometimes it really does happen for a reason, and
Hmm.
it kind of ignites this like hunger and fire in you, and you're like, well, I got to figure out how to pay the bills, and I got to eat, so I got to make this work. And that fire then like helps you become then successful at this like business you've always wanted to start. Because if it didn't happen, you would probably stay in that kind of safe zone, right?
Yep.
Like most people do. Like,
I
well,
know.
let me wait a little bit a while. Let me save up a little bit.
Exactly. No, that's so true. Like we get comfortable, and I have been comfortable. Like I stayed at a job for 7 years, and looking back, I'm like, I can't believe I did that, but it was because it was available and I didn't have to do anything else. And um so I appreciate this opportunity. Like it was a mutually beneficial opportunity. Like it wasn't a negative connotation around, like I'll still be freelancing with them when I finish, but it was
Mm.
just, it's a nonprofit, so nonprofits have to do what they have to do to make things work. So it worked out for me because I knew that I wanted to do this, and yeah, and it worked out. So yeah, it's forcing me to do it, and it's also giving me an opportunity to do it in a way that is, that doesn't leave me kind of high and dry. So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
it's great. I can't wait to see what you do.
Ah!
So just a couple of wrap-up questions. Have you discovered your passion, and it doesn't have to be with what you're doing now, but have you discovered your passion? If so, what is it? And if not, what are you doing to discover it?
I guess we're evolving people. So for now, my passion is making So making like the clay, like that is currently my passion, and being able to inspire others to create, which is what that has done for a lot of people. I'm getting a lot of messages, and people are making things, and they're, you know, expanding whatever they're doing, and that is amazing. And I also would like to be able to help people use the clay as a form of therapy, because that's what it was for me. So currently that is my passion. But I know, like I said, we evolve, so down the line there may be something else that this, you know, evolves into. So I am very open to whatever that will be. But right now, just being able to create freely and be an artist, which I never really considered myself.
Mm,
But
mhm.
I've always considered myself a designer, and now being able to be an artist and actually create and make things that people want to buy, or that people want to consume or have, versus someone telling me what to do and me putting out a product.
Mhm.
So that is something that is, I consider, a passion for me, like creating something that comes from me that I can give to the world.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And what is one thing that you can't live without? It could be anything, tech, makeup, furniture, like anything, but just one thing you're like, I gotta have this.
Ooh, I gotta have my my Lush Sleepy. This is it's a lotion, but it's very
Oh.
but it's a scent. It's lavender and some other things, and I can just sniff it, and it just makes me feel calm and good. So right now, in this moment, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
You're like, I need that.
I need that.
Give me my lavender.
Right? Yes. Yes. So
Oh, very cool. And please let the listeners know where they can find you.
you can find me at I'm on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Hadiya Williams, HadiyaWilliams. And you can also find me at HadiyaWilliams.com, and blackpepperpapery.com is also a website. That's where I have my clay work. And HadiyaWilliams.com is where my design work is located. So those are the best places to find me. Instagram is number one. So
Yes, people definitely go check it out. Cool work.
hey,
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast or agreeing to be on. This has been a great conversation, and I know it'll really help people who are kind of on the fence kind of like think through like what their next steps will be. So I think it'll be really helpful for the listeners out there. So thank you.
oh great! Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I am so thankful that you reached out to me. I appreciate it. This is my first podcast, so this is pretty cool. I appreciate it.
Well, folks, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. I mean, I know I did, and I'll tell you guys are going to think I'm a total nerd. I can hear you guys now, especially the people who know me. Like, I just get butterflies when I hear, in particular, like women entrepreneurs like talk about their dreams, right? And what they're going to do. And then I also get butterflies too when I am talking to people who've like accomplished those dreams. I don't know, there's just like something about that. I just love hearing stories of people's journeys. And so Hadia, I think she does some amazing work. And I just know like is if she puts her mind to it, she is going to be crazy successful because her stuff is beautiful. I think she gave some great tips in here, especially like when she even talks about, preparing for her own business, like obtaining, at least in DC, it's a CBE, but wherever you are, you can figure out what that is. But she also says aligning with people that are in the space that she wants to be in. And I think that is really key. And that's one of the reasons why networking was on my goals for this year, because you need to align with other people that are trying to do what you're doing or they've done what you want to do so you can inspire each other. And then the co working space, a lot of people love that because it gets them out of the house and it puts them in like a creative environment. So I can't wait to touch base with her in the future just to find out like how that's working. And I want to even check out the space, the recreative space that she talked about. And then she took on like a freelance job. So that kind of goes back to like diversifying your income, right? Like, so she might have freelance jobs, she might do some stuff with the arts. And, if you go to her website right now, you could buy her. Um, Patterns on Spoonflower. You can buy her patterns on Shop Vita. She is already figuring out how to diversify her income in various ways as a designer and a maker. So I think, I don't know, she gave like some really good, solid tips for those that are starting out. And it doesn't even matter if you're in a maker space or not. Like, it's just if you're starting a business. So anyway, I hope you guys found this to be super helpful. We mentioned a lot of links, or she mentioned a lot of great links in here, like the 4 Hour Work Week, Nicole Crowder, Spoonflower Society 6, and so forth. That is all in the show notes, and you can head on over to nishaysnow.com to get all the links and just a quick recap of what we've talked about. All right. All right, that's it, people. Of course, please share this episode, on social media or via email. It really, really helps. And of course, as always, if you head on over to iTunes and give me a 5-star rating, that also helps the show and helps people find me. And thank you guys for listening in and for all of your support. I really, really appreciate it. And for supporting the women that I've brought onto the show, because I know you guys have either purchased from them or followed them. So it's like we're all this community, this network of people, men and women that are helping each other out. All right, you guys. So have an amazing morning, noon, and night. And I will catch you guys next week with another amazing guest. All right. Take care. Bye.